Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining this live event. Today we have two fantastic guests here. We have Diana and Israel, and they will tell us how they succeeded in changing their profession to become successful software developers. If you are watching the event live, don't forget that you have a live chat there, so I try to keep an eye on the live chat even though it's kind of far away from my eyes. But I still hope I will see your questions and comments and share them with the guests. Again, thank you very much, Diana and Israel, for being here with me and sharing your success stories with our audience. Tell us a bit about yourselves. You started as not being software developers. Diana, I know about you. You started as an English teacher. And Israel, you were previously accountant or
no, I was working on the customer
service,
customer service domain, and after I decided to do a little change.
So you started as not being software developers, and it's something that is actually very far away from being software developers, but somehow you managed. And you managed to be very successful actually, because guys, I remember, for example, for about 3 years ago or something, I've been with Diana. It was in New York, so she got a prize from the company as being one of the most successful software developers in the company, which says something about that. So I know many of you asked me in the past years, I would say, is it possible to become a software developer if I don't have technical studies, if I do something else now? And I always say, yes, it is possible, but it's always very difficult for me to prove it because, well, I can't say that I did that myself. And even though I have a lot of examples, it's not always possible to give them or to prove them. So today, what is fantastic about our today's discussion is that I will prove this is possible. And of course, I don't say that everybody can do that, but it's possible. So it's definitely possible. And I have not one, but two people here with me who managed to do that, and they will tell us about their success stories. So let's start with Diana. Tell us about how you started. So you were an English teacher, and at some point you figured out, well, I want to be a software developer. How did it happen?
I was teaching, and usually as a teacher during the summer you don't really have a job, so I had lots of free time, and I started looking up a lot of courses online. I was doing courses on Coursera, Udemy, stuff like that, and I was doing all sorts of courses. It had nothing to do with computer science at first.
Okay.
Started with philosophy, graphic novels, completely unrelated, just out of curiosity. And I stumbled upon a course that had to do with programming, just coding 101 with some Python, and I liked it. I liked it. It was really interesting. It was easy for me to get. And then I did another one, and then I figured out I had a passion for it, and I liked it. And I actually went and did a full-on course at a school here in Bucharest that was offering courses.
So long story short, it was summer. As a teacher, you don't have a lot of things to do. You started on Coursera, a lot of courses, and then you found programming. And you found a Python scripting course, and then you said, well, I got to change to Java.
First one was Python. I think the second one was still Python. The third one was C. That one scared the heck out of me with lots of pointers and stuff. I was like, yeah, this is not for me, definitely not. But then I got into it, and when I decided, it wasn't like a conscious decision to go with Java, but the school where I applied to do a full-on course, Bootcamp, they actually sold Java really well. So they said Java is the most popular language. It's gonna guarantee you a job. So
okay, like, so that's the language. Okay, so like,
there's lots of languages out there. I want the one that gives me the money.
Okay, so you kind of thought about not only I like to do programming, but also it will help me learn that. What about you, Israel? What was your experience with stuff?
For me, it was a little bit different. I discovered about programming and stuff via a YouTube channel.
Okay,
a long time ago, back in 2008 and 9, then it was an American guy, the New Boston. Maybe you heard about it, and he was very funny as a guy. He has a funny way to explain stuff, and I was watching at him like a hobby, stuff like that. And I didn't took that in serious at first. And while I was working as a controller, quality controller in this customer service company, I have one of my peer who told me that if you are attracted to programming and stuff, you have schools who can teach you
more,
and teach you from zero.
So first of all, I'm really glad to hear that YouTube's channel can be successful, because that gives me a lot of I trust that maybe at some point my YouTube channel will help others. Secondly, so you took it also as a hobby. You like the way that guy explained what programming is, and then at some point you still figured out, well, why wouldn't I do that as my profession? So that was long story short, your start. And you started that what at what age exactly? So
it was in 2016 when my peer told me about this school, this academy who can teach you from the zero, and till then they were past 4 and 5 years.
So when you started,
I was
then
27
you were
something.
okay. So when you started, you were already in Romania. Because by the way, guys, Israel, I think you are not from Romania.
No.
You came. You were about 20, you told me.
Yeah, 20 when I came in Romania, and I first studied here political sciences, which does nothing to do.
Yeah, okay, so you studied the faculty here,
Yes.
but political science.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So first of all, I forgot to tell you that we are now in Bucharest in Endava office. Endava has a full Irish pub here. Is what you see. It's our office, our cool office. So I'm pretty glad about that. And one interesting thing is that Israel, he's not from Romania, so he came and he's actually a foreigner. So was that difficult? Well, did that add some difficulty? The fact that you maybe didn't know the language, what did at the first? How did people welcome you? How was this experience?
Just out of curiosity, was the course in Romanian?
Yes. When I start learning, at this academy, I already knew Romanian, so I took the classes in Romanian, and so about this language, it was I was already familiar, so I was able to take a class in Romania without any problem. And if I had difficulty to understand stuff, I asked questions and
okay, but it was still difficult, because anyway, don't tell me in 5 years you're an expert in Romanian, so you could understand.
In the faculty, because when I came to the faculty, I've done my faculty in French language.
Yes.
Political sciences in French section. So all my colleagues were speaking. They were speaking well French.
Okay.
So the good advantage here is that they were Romanian who speak French.
So they helped you learn Romanian easier.
Exactly.
Okay, that was kind of luck. But still that's the point. So Diana started with Coursera and similar sites. Did you also then try something like Israel did, a course with a real teacher in a class?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
At the point where I decided that I would like to do this more seriously, so not just out of curiosity, I figured out that the best way to actually do it isn't to skip around from course to course online, and to just find a school that would teach me, like you said, from zero up to the point where you would get a job. And I actually found a course online. I found it online, but the course was in person. That offered a bootcamp, a 3 months full-time bootcamp. It was about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
So you actually took your time, and 3 months or how?
3 months.
3 months you stayed daily, 5 hours a day at least, studying.
Yeah, 5 there and 3 at least at home doing exercises.
And did it help you?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are now going back in time, you would choose the same thing?
I would definitely choose the same thing. I was actually asked about that recently. Someone wanted my opinion. How should they proceed? Would I change something? I would not change anything. It was exactly what I should have done, because it was a very thorough course that actually walked me through everything that I needed to know for the job. And it was.
Would you change anything if you were going back in time? You figured out at some point, well, I like programming. You were on Coursera there, you were studying, and then I said, I like programming. And you still, first of all, took some online courses?
Yes,
to
I didn't jump
probably,
straight in, pay my money for something I had no idea
so
about.
you first made sure you really liked that, and
Exactly.
then you figured out, well, I like this, and then you went to this kind of a boot camp, 3 months, daily, 5 hours a day.
I think I had
Was
some-
that the successful approach for you? So would you change anything? Would you try some kind of another approach?
No. It was exactly what I needed. I compared it at the time. There were other courses that were 2 or 3 hours per weekend, spread out, and that was not the approach. I wanted
Okay.
something, because again, I think it was during the next year's summer, so a year had passed from then. So I actually again had lots of free time and I could dedicate that. There were people who were also doing the course that had full-time jobs and they couldn't follow through so much. But for me, I could do it, and it was the best approach to get the result as fast as possible.
During summer number 1 and summer number 2, did you do something, or you simply stopped and then went to your English courses, past simple, present perfect, I don't know, and then back in the next summer you took this course?
I kept going,
Okay.
but that's why I actually went to the boot camp in the next summer, because I realized I was jumping around from course to course, and I was getting distracted by all these shiny things, and there was no like beginning and end, and I wanted something that would guarantee that I don't redo the same courses, just go over the beginner stuff and just keep getting distracted by those.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing. I was just here a little exercise,
A
here
little,
a little
okay.
project.
Just not to
But
forget.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but I
And-
wasn't making the progress that I wanted.
Okay. And Israel, did you have the same approach? Did you go to a boot camp or something? So you still started with a YouTube channel or something online, but then you still say you went to a class.
To a class, yeah.
What kind of a class?
It was a class about as the language was Java, and there was separated in some kind of modules. So the first one was the fundamentals about this programming language, and after that I decided to take a second module and the third one. So about maybe you have a question.
No, go on, please. So,
Yeah.
so you just explain us, because I will take care of all the questions. So-
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I actually after the first module, I really loved it. Then I decided to take the second module and so on.
And how long did it take? Because the question that you saw say, I'm doing Java for about 1.5 years, but I'm still not feeling prepared for a job. What does it mean for you, feeling prepared for a job? What did it mean to you at that time? When did you know, I'm prepared now for a job, I have to do that?
When I took this step to actually postulate or apply to interviews, it was after I was comfortable about the fundamentals. So not about frameworks, not about Spring and other stuff,
Just
but
fundamentals.
Just fundamentals. And yeah, I started applying for jobs, and for my first interview, I wasn't so prepared about the database part.
Okay, so they actually went and then they asked question about SQL queries.
Yes.
And you said, heck, I didn't study that. So I only know Java. Can you ask me Java, please?
Yeah, Java, please. But actually, it's basic SQLs. Select, it's okay. But the interviewer start to ask question about joins, and I didn't prepare myself to those kind of questions. But I took the point, and I go home. I go home and learn that part.
Okay, so very important. So what you say? Well, it didn't go the first time, so it's not the first time. It's maybe the second time. That we don't care. But the important thing is don't quit.
Don't quit.
And it's important from a perspective to go to an interview up front, or when should you go to an interview? You say I only knew the fundamentals. So that was actually enough from your perspective. You went to an interview, you saw what were the questions, you went back home, you studied what you didn't get the first time, and then you went back and so on until you figured it out.
Yes.
Cool. Was the same for you, Diana? Your first job. So how did it be?
So again, the reason why I chose the schools that I went to, because they sold it really well, that bootcamp, was that they said that if you finish top of the course, they will give you an interview. They will place you with a job at a company. So basically my teacher recommended me and another two of my colleagues who finished among the first ones, and we went to the interview and we got hired.
Okay, so it's somehow they were introducing you. Why was that needed? Was that really needed, someone to introduce you to a company? Like in the end, isn't LinkedIn out there and you can apply to any job you'd like? And
Probably,
but it helped you.
But
say.
I think they had some connections with some companies that they would refer to and stuff like that.
Okay, so but it was easier for you. So what you say, it was even easier for you because you didn't even have to go to LinkedIn and apply for jobs because somebody else did that for you, which is excellent, of course.
But I did pay for that.
Yeah,
because it
but you
was
did pay for
included
that,
in
definitely. So it was including the price of the 6 months bootcamp that you 3 months bootcamp that you. Okay, cool. And someone actually says that they complete a training and then they immediately got hired. So that's possible. It's clearly not only your story, but it's others as well. So and that's fantastic. And again, I don't think I asked Israel. In your case, if you go back in time, would you change something, like maybe choose some other approach, some other learning approach?
Not quite. I consider that I done the good choice. Maybe yeah, I will change something. not watch always tutorial, and maybe you are doing what the person are doing in the screen, and you just copying without understanding stuff. Because if you can do an application which is will run, but if you have to do it yourself, it will be difficult. So when you want to entry in this field, you have YouTube, you have a lot of information, of channels. It's disorganized. You do not know. You do not have a structured way to start learning programming. You pick one video, you do the application, you pick another video, and after 6 months you forgot everything and you came back again. You came in this kind of loop. I experienced it.
So that's very interesting, because you are not the first one to have told me about this experience actually, and now I remember that other students of mine said the same thing. Well, I do this mistake of copying without necessarily understanding well what I'm copying there, and then I figured out that I made my application worked and I was very happy because something happened. But then I realized, well, if you would ask me to do that again, I have no idea how to do that again by myself. So I simply just copied it. So how do you solve this problem?
Don't be afraid to buy for your education. I mean, if you have a course or a bootcamp in which you have to pay money for that, do it, because this teacher has the time to structure the information, and it will be more easier for you to follow than by yourself with YouTube and random video can happen. So So this is my advice.
Okay, so it's like an investment, like you invest money, but then you get them back.
Yes.
Did you get them back fast enough?
I will say yes. But it's not free, because you have to have this drive. You have to have this ambition to not spend your weekend doing other stuff, maybe funnier. You have to know that I want to do that. I want to get myself in this IT field. So I will sacrifice free time to actually study and enjoy what you like. I mean, if you like programming, you will not see that as a pain. You will see that as a you are learning new stuff.
One other important thing that I figured out discussing now with you is both of you somehow chose to change your profession for money, but at the same time both of you liked very much programming.
For me, it wasn't for money actually.
You know?
No, it wasn't for money, but because I actually love it. When I was watching this New Boston channel guy, I was amazed of what he was doing, but I didn't knew that me not doing computer sciences study will be able to do that also.
And I'm sure it happened when you compared yourself at some point with people, with others that came from computer science. Let me hear from you. I will start with Diana because I saw her breathing heavy here. So you at some point had to compare yourself with someone who came from the field, who studied years before you. How did you feel? Have you been discouraged?
How did I feel? How do I feel?
How do you still feel?
Yeah,
So
it's never went away.
So you are still feeling like an imposter or something?
Yeah, sometimes.
But do you really feel that others know much more than yourself now? Because you are now a senior developer, and you haven't been promoted as a senior developer because you are not doing a lot of good things. So why do you still feel, and why did you feel previously?
So previously I felt because, again, you can't compare 3 months to 3 years that they did in college. There were lots of things that they learned that I had to cram into myself and that I had only a superficial understanding of. And it's one of those fake it till you make it kind of thing. So for a lot of those years, and to some extent I still do have a lot of very superficial knowledge about a lot of things. I had to pick up from here and there. It's not something that has I can't find my words, and that has settled in thoroughly. And even now, like, I'm in a team with very competent colleagues who are at the same level as I am, but still I can feel that they have so much more knowledge that they accumulated during college. They played around with a lot of things, whereas I was playing around with 2-year-old kids learning head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
But still, in the faculty, let me tell you the truth. It's 70% drinking vodka, 30% studying programming. So don't worry, you didn't lose so much in terms of programming. So I'm not sure how it was for the others, but yeah, I can tell you that was part of my experience. I still have a comment here, and maybe you want to address it. So LinkedIn can be an awesome platform to find a job if you have some experience. Someone says, I'm looking for a job as a Java and Angular developer, probably full stack, front end and back end, for 6 months, and it's really hard. I get only negative responses. What would be your advice if you were this guy? Put yourself in your shoes. You somehow managed to get into an interview. You told us, of course, Diana, it was somehow scheduled by the bootcamp you bought. But in case of you, Israel, because in your case you found it by yourself. How do you find your interviews?
By eJobs.
Yeah, so it's still a platform.
Yeah,
it's
still a platform. And after that, I knew about LinkedIn back then,
and you had no experience, okay?
Yeah.
And you went to the first interview. Someone called you from HR or whatever, and they told you, well, I have no experience. Did they accept you? Easy. You actually told them, well, I have no experience, I'm not Romanian, I'm an accountant or whatever, sorry, customer relations for, can I prove you that I know Java, or how did you get into that?
I mean, if you because you apply to a lot of company, and if somebody calls you, they've read already your CV, so they knew a little bit about your background. So the difficulty is how to get to a company to call you.
Okay.
So because it's not like you apply to 10 company and they actually the next day call you. No. It's no. So I know what the feeling is to apply for 6 months and nobody calls you, but when they will call you, because they will call you if you continue applying, you take it like a battle. Yeah, because it's a chance to prove that you actually you deserve to have a position as an entry level.
But what I understand is that one of the prerequisites is have a well-structured CV.
Yes.
Because you started from the beginning with the assumption that you said they already read my CV, so they already knew something if they called me. But that means that you have a well-structured CV in which you very well wrote what you did. And
and
since you didn't have experience, what did you actually write in that CV?
And you also to have to you need to have something technical. I mean, something related to the job you're applying. A good option, maybe a certificate, a Java certificate.
Okay, that was one of the next questions, and
Yes.
I was just
Yeah.
about to
Yes.
tell you. So,
Yes.
what? So they say maybe you can try a certification. Recruiters
Yeah, a
like that.
certification,
Do you really think that? So
Yes.
you go to an OCP.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like how am I going to prove to somebody that I'm serious about this? So how are they going to think that I'm going to just, when the going gets tough, I'm going to go back to teaching kids? So the first thing that I thought of, okay, I'm going to take the certification, I'm going to study it, I'm going to pay money for it, just prove that this is something that I'm investing time and money into and that I'm serious about.
That's
Yes.
really interesting because I have again these questions, this kind of questions a lot of time from people. Should I go for a certification? Does it help me? Because at some point people take a certification, they are never asked about it. Well, maybe you won't be, but what you say is that it's your chance, at least if you are coming from a different profession, it's your chance to somehow
For an entry
prove.
level, yes, it will definitely help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about studying for certifications, how did you do that? How did you study? Go on. Yeah, Diana?
Just found books online and some courses, structured my time, but I get a bit obsessed with things like that. Like I would take, I say I want to take this exam in 2 months. Okay, how many chapters does this book have? Okay, I need to spread this in chunks of 1 chapter per week and stuff like that. So I would get obsessed with these little chunks that I set for myself, these little deadlines that I need to finish 50 pages by the end of the day. And then I get to do these. It depends.
Wow.
So it depends. I tend to read
Mock
fast.
exams,
And
were they
mock
helpful?
exams, of course, I did.
Because
Yes,
in my
lots of mock
opinion, it's
exams.
impossible without them, but I want to hear it from you as well.
Yeah,
I would
Otherwise,
okay.
never take
Okay.
any certification without
Yeah,
doing lots
yeah.
of mock exams because
Yes.
it's not the same. Knowing Java and knowing how to take a test and prepare and the time you need to allocate to each exercise, and there's a certain pattern that you start to see the more exercises you do, so it's invaluable.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
So anyway, you got a certification, you somehow ended up in an interview, and now I read a question, it was in Romanian, but I will translate it. They ask, well, whenever you go to an interview, you have multiple steps. What do they usually ask you, and which were the most difficult things that you have encountered during an interview? You don't have to give us specific questions because probably they are totally different from interview to interview, but in terms of topics, were there topics that were more difficult than others from your perspective? And
From my experience, it was about this database, yeah, about the joins, what is cross join, inner joins, and stuff like this. And another, I mean, domain will be about algorithm, how you solve a problem. Yes, and you have to be prepared a little bit about that because doesn't matter for the interviewer. I mean, it's matter that you know the language, but he wants also to know how you think, how you think about solving problems. So yeah, it's maybe a little bit challenging this part, but prepare yourself to algorithm and yeah, how you solve a little problem.
I have to relate to that because indeed, when I'm interviewing as an interviewer now, and I'm interviewing a junior developer, very often I try to see how they think in terms of logic, and I don't ask a very complex algorithm from their side. It's something more like sorting a list, searching in a list, something that's relatively easy and can be done in I wouldn't say minutes, but maybe 20 minutes, something like that. I never, of course, and I don't know how others do, but I don't go to, I don't know, parsing graphs or trees or stuff like that, which is very high stuff. But indeed, I do ask about algorithms, and not necessarily to see the best solution from them, but to see that they at least think somehow, that they don't only know the definition of specific keywords or stuff like that. Like maybe they know what static is because they learned it by heart, but they have no idea how to really use it. And that's from an interviewer point of view important. What do you think, Diana?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
You still, same as Israel, you went into situations where they asked you about algorithmical problems. Difficult, less difficult? What do you think? What kind of, can you give us an example of?
The first one, where I first got the job, that one had a fizz buzz exercise, and it was on paper, and he wanted to see me how I thought. And one of the important things is to think out loud. They want to actually hear you, how you get these thoughts, and how you, okay, no, that's a good one, no, that's not a good one, that's how you should do it. Like first you get the simplest, the dumbest solution possible, and then you optimize it and things like that. That's what they wanted to see.
Do either of you consider themselves shy?
Yeah.
And did this affect you? I know you went to your first interview, maybe the second was easier, maybe the third was even easier, but did this somehow, the fact that you are a bit shy, affected you? Maybe it was difficult for you to speak out loud, to speak what you think? Because sometimes I have candidates, it's very difficult to make them speak and describe what they think, the way they think, and I think that could be a disadvantage. So how did you get over it? You don't know how you get over it.
I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't get
so
over it.
you did.
That's the thing. It's still, so it's a mixture of like being shy and being unsure. So again,
Okay.
going back to that. So even if I maybe knew the answer, maybe I was unsure of saying something incredibly stupid. So sometimes I don't say anything at all.
Because I'm thinking that especially because you didn't study in faculty and you don't have this background.
Yeah.
It was even more difficult for you, and being also shy, you were thinking, oh God, maybe I really say something very wrong. Even if you say something really wrong, what could happen in the end? So it's better to say something wrong rather than not say anything. At least that's how I feel.
Yes,
Okay, I do say something really wrong, I will still fail the interview. Same as if I would not say anything, but at least if I say something, it might be correct. So what do you think? Is that
I don't know. I keep thinking about the second interview that I did. So after a year at the first company where I got hired, and during the second interview, there were a lot of questions that I was unprepared for. Like you got the ones with the database. I had the one about testing, and I worked for a year at the previous company, and we didn't have a single test. I had studied during the bootcamp about tests, but I had never written a single one and didn't use Mockito and nothing like that. So during that interview, the interviewer kept asking me about like, how would you do this if you had a connection to the database? What would you do? I was like, I had no idea. I was like frozen there in the spot, and I felt like I was gonna cry because this person here in front of me who's very knowledgeable is gonna think I'm the dumbest person in existence. What am I even doing here? I should just like go home and like start teaching again.
okay?
So it was a very like traumatizing thing, but it's difficult. So you gotta pull it out of you, like you said.
What you said now, did you have at least one time the feeling that heck, I'm gonna quit this, I'm gonna go teaching again? The same for you, Israel. The same question. So this stuff is not for me. I'm gonna quit this. I'm going to my old profession. That's it. Over.
Just at the end of the bootcamp, when we were left alone to do a project, and we only learned Spring and Hibernate during the last day or last 2 days, and then it was like, oh, you should put the Spring and Hibernate in your project, and I started crying and calling my mom and saying I'm stupid and I should not be doing this because I'm incompetent and I can't do anything. Basically because I was finding all of these tutorials online that had different versions and they were not compatible, and I had all these errors that I hadn't learned how to handle. So that was the only moment where I just like broke down and thought I should not be doing this.
But your colleagues, because you weren't the only one in the boot camp, did all of them succeed?
I haven't really kept in touch. I know that some did get hired and they're successful at their jobs, but I think some did not get a job. Some, I think, were a bit older, and I think there was some age bias when they tried to get hired. I am not very sure. So it's
do you think that
something I
age
heard
can be something disturbing in terms of being accepted?
I think there could be some bias against that if they consider you that your mind is still fresh and young to be able to adapt to learn new things, because in our field you keep learning new things every day. You have to keep picking up new skills, and
so one of your advantage of being successful could have been also the fact that you started this when you were 20 something, and you feel, anyway, you look like 20 now, so take that as a compliment. Anyway, still young. If you say if I were 50, then I most likely would have find it very difficult. That's something you, but let's don't discourage our audience, because that's we can't say that that's potentially a problem. And I do feel that you have to try it multiple times, even if you are older, because I don't know examples, but I'm somewhere in my heart I know it's possible. So
I have an example. My mom, she's not in IT, but my mom, when she retired, she actually went to high school, and she she was doing what's it called, insurance before, and now she's working in cosmetics and stuff like that. And she went to school, she got a degree, and when she retired, she actually converted her job to this, and she's very successful now. So I think you can do it if you have the young spirit and the mind and the drive to do it.
It's all about mindset,
So, but as long as the employees aren't against you, because she could get employed on her own. So
our comment section went crazy, and most likely, guys, I won't be able to read all of them, especially because I'm quite far, but I will take at least the ones that I feel we didn't answer already somehow. So one of the last one from Gianfranco. Friends who have found work as a Java programmer have told me that courses give you only the basic knowledge and that things are learned by working. How would you reply that?
I agree.
You agree?
Yes, because any course will give you the fundamentals, and after you have to learn by yourself. You have to practice. You have to read books. You have to get your hand dirty. So yes.
Does that stop at some point, or
never? I mean, if you want to be a programmer, you have to be
continuous learning.
Yeah, continuous learning, because even for a senior, 20 years experience, he is still learning new stuff. So
yes, I can relate to that. I'm still at least 4 hours a week learning continuously.
Yes.
So guys, if you hear me now, I never stopped, and I'm still at least 4 hours a week. I'm studying whatever new stuff appears there, and even not necessarily new stuff, but as a refresher, I might study old frameworks that I've used. They are all important, and if you don't use them, you forget them. You have at least as a refresher, maybe read a book again about them. They keep you updated. That's.
I wanted to mention that one of the best skills you can learn is how to learn.
How to learn, and how do you learn how to learn? And how do you even know what to learn or what not to learn? What does it matter?
That's
because you some at some point,
if you pick up bad habits,
at some point, even if you didn't think about it, you took these decisions. You said you started with Python, and then you went out to C, and then you got afraid of C. You you throw it to the garbage, and then you started with Java. Was Java the best choice? Our audience here is most likely, a big part of them is Java developers, because the channel is related to Java. But we don't necessarily have to admit that Java is necessarily the best choice. So was Java the best choice? Would you choose another language now that you have a lot of more experience?
For me, no. I think Java was for me. I think it's a personal choice here. The best language, because I wanted to work in the enterprise community.
Okay.
And depend for you if you want to do freelancing and develop application website. Maybe Java is not for you. I mean, there are a lot of plenty of programming language. So yeah, for me it was. But you do not. I mean, learning one language, programming language, will not be enough. Yes, okay. You have to learn a lot of things. I mean, maybe front end JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And maybe in the server side, like Linux and stuff.
It's always this debate, and again, a lot of people now that I'm discussing with you, I remember that a lot of people ask me, should I start with Python or Java? I'm not sure why, but today it's always about is Python or Java. Nobody asks me is JavaScript or C. Nobody asks me it's always the same question, is Python or Java. Why the heck Python or Java? And which is the answer from your point of view?
When I was studying, when I was first doing the courses, all these teachers on Coursera were saying that Python is the easiest to teach and to learn. Easiest. If you've never experienced a programming language, never come in contact with one, Python is much easier to pick up. At least that's what they were saying. So that's maybe why it's recommended for beginners.
Okay.
But I don't know. For me, again, Java was very good. But now I'm thinking, if you pick up Python, if you have some background in math, maybe you can switch to something like big data
mining,
machine learning and stuff like that. That's also a possibility. So that's very popular.
In
but
the
not
end,
for me, because I had zero math.
In the end, once you've entered the field, then you will choose based on what you want to do. And if you want to work with data, then Python is the choice. Yes. Is definitely what's been at some point in the past years made for, and then Java is more for enterprise applications and stuff like that. So depends a lot of what you do. But for a beginner, does it matter in the end if it's Java or Python when you start?
No, just pick a good programming language.
So use a dice. Just use a dice. Python or Java is the same. But just pick one of them and stay with that one at least for a few months to grasp it completely. And then if you feel you already know the very fundamentals, maybe you try Java, maybe you try something else.
Exactly.
Okay. And I want to ask you now, because we figured out from the very beginning, how did you start with changing your profession. You said if each of you had their own approach, and you still say it was the best for you. So even if it's different, so it doesn't mean there is one approach better than another. No. So don't try to copy someone. Take what you feel to be the best for yourself. That's one of the things that I've learned from this discussion. And then we discussed about going to the interviews, and you told us a lot of insights about how you did it. Let's go one step further. And you got employed. How difficult was to become part of a team? Were the other developers helpful with you? Were they nice? Did they help you? Did you feel any kind of impediments?
I never experienced. I mean, personally, never experienced something bad. I mean, a colleague will tell me, you don't know nothing. No. It matter a lot. Your teammates. I mean, the project you are joining on, and I have the chance that the people were okay, and actually the senior or more advanced colleagues were willing to help me, and depend also on your personality. I mean, if you are stuck, go to others. I mean, don't try to solve by yourself, and you spend maybe 2 weeks on a task which will be, I mean, done in 2 days if you ask for help. So yeah, go and ask, and don't be shy to not know anything. Ask. If you are stuck, go and ask. And another thing I learned. I mean, when I start, I was very afraid about console error.
No.
So when
exceptions, when you saw an exception stuck, that was
so okay. I was very. You don't know. You have a stack trace like this, and you don't know what's going on. You are afraid like this, and after 1 year, I actually love it when something
You love to see exceptions.
Exactly, because
oh come on, I never love. Always when I see a stuck trace in the logs, it's not good. So I'm just going to take a coffee.
I mean, it was a very big switch to not be afraid.
Not be afraid at least.
On
So
error
yeah,
and
okay.
actually take it, and it's an opportunity to learn, because if something went wrong, you go and you search why it's failing, and and when you know the why, you will learn something from it. So it's a very good thing at the beginning to not be afraid of error, and deal with it, because it's life.
Did you experience, or did you have any were you afraid at some point that people will treat you differently because you are a foreigner?
No. I mean, it is my personality. I get that people are curious when you are coming from another part of the world. It's very natural. Just get used to it, because people are curious. As long that it is not offending, they don't ask you stuff which offends you. If they are just curious and want to know more about you, of course it's a good thing.
I ask you that because it's a great chance now to learn from you, because I get these questions sometimes from people from around the world, different countries. They say I moved, but I didn't feel I was treated like their own. So even people who were discouraged and they wanted to say I'm going back to my country because people here they don't treat me the same.
I heard about it, but I think
But doesn't your experience?
No, because I'm not the kind of person who put a barrier on himself. I mean, I let other people put the barriers. So I will not say myself that I cannot do it because I'm a foreigner. I will let the other guys to say you cannot do it because you're a foreigner.
In the end, so what the heck's the difference? Like Java is the same for all of us. So, but still, it seems that we live in a world where this kind of things happen. So it's good that it didn't happen to you. And same for you, Diana. Did you ever hear that programming is a profession for men?
No. Luckily, no. I haven't encountered that. It's been just lots of supportive people, and it's been a very positive experience.
Okay.
I read lots of articles. So the famous one about the Google developer who wrote the whole manifesto that programming is more for men than for women, but I've never heard anything like that here. So everybody's just treated me equally. So I haven't had any problems.
Yeah, I'm start to try to figure out if it's because Romania is a great country, because in the end again I get these kind of questions, and that's the reason I asked you, is because I get from others, from people watching my videos on YouTube. They sometimes contact me on Twitter, sometimes on LinkedIn, and they ask me questions. Say I'm a woman and I cannot be part of a team of 5 men. They always exclude me. What should I do?
They should come here, because in my team there's 15 women and 2 or 3 men.
Wow.
So
Okay, so it's literally it's literally the other way around.
But from information I've seen, that Romania does do very well on this front. There's lots of women in programming, which is amazing.
So thankfully, from this point of view, it's a great country to be.
Yes.
Okay, so is it any clue, anything else that we had a long discussion already, and it's almost close to the end of our spent hour. Is it something that I missed? Because we discussed starting from you were an English teacher, you were a customer support, and you decided how to change. We discussed what were your decisions, what would you do different, how was the interview, and we even discussed about how did you feel in your first weeks, months of being part of a real team. Did I miss anything, or did we miss in our discussion anything that you feel important, and those guys watching us now, they need to know? It will be really helpful for them to.
I think we cover everything. I will just repeat about this the mindset, and you have to have this drive to learn, because I see that a lot of people made the mistake that I will get myself get a job to as a software engineer for money. The money will come if you are good. The money will come. This is not the problem. But do it for you at first, and be constant. Yeah, that you will not when you join is done. No, when you join is the beginning. You have to constantly learn and document it yourself. So I will just repeat about this part: the mindset and the drive. Be curious. Yes, be curious. I mean, for someone who will switch his career, if you do not have this drive, it will be difficult for you.
I think you need to learn to love what you're doing.
Yes.
You'll be doing it again and again and learning new stuff. And if you don't fall in love with programming, and if you're not passionate about it and enjoy it, if you just do it for money, you're gonna get burned out.
Did you ever meet people who tried this only for the money?
Yes.
And was that efficient for them? How did it end?
I don't know how it ended because yeah, but it was difficult because you know that they are very struggling when they are doing programming, and they didn't like it. I mean, this is my perception of.
And I have a question actually. See, guys, if you still want to ask questions, now is the time because we are going to close soon. But what are the daily? Does it write here missions of a Java developer? I think they refer to tasks. What are the daily tasks of a Java developer? I guess at the very beginning. What kind of tasks did you get when you entered first as a junior? In your first day, someone gave you what kind of task?
Put a button.
Put a button on what?
Yeah, on a page.
On a web page.
On a web page.
So you were a Java developer, but they asked you to put a button on a web page.
Yeah, because they taught me. So at the company where I got hired, the first month and a half, they trained us and they also taught us Angular.
Okay.
So
they wanted you full stack developers.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the mindset
now. The first
now.
one was to do a button, to put a button on a page. Yeah.
And did you find it difficult?
No, I actually finished it really fast and I wanted more, and there was no, because everything was planned out, like you do this on Monday, do this on Tuesday, but I had already finished it in half an hour and I wanted more.
Did you ever get bored of tasks?
I get bored of not having tasks. I think that's way worse than having tasks. Being on a project where it's full of meetings and not actually having things to do is the most mind-numbing thing possible. And I've had that, unfortunately, on some projects where there were no tasks. And day to day would just like be. And
you ran away because that's when you don't feel, then that's what you should do. If that's not the project for you, then you switch the project. If that's not your company, then you switch the company. So you can't like literally stay forever in a place that you don't find healthy for your soul.
Yeah, but I think there would be people who would have enjoyed that kind of environment, just like
which is okay for them.
You don't have any task, you get your money.
So if you important
is for the money,
yes,
it's perfect.
yes, it's perfect.
So I can recommend the project for them. But for everybody else, if they're actually passionate about this, they actually want to do this every day. They feed on this. Like I feed on the tasks that I do, the things I learn every day. Sometimes I do new things that I have no idea how to do, and then I feel stupid for like half a day, and then I learn them. I say I feel so powerful. It's like a new superpower. Now I can encrypt stuff and do whatever. You know, it's like those in like video games where you have achievement unlocked and stuff.
You see the results.
So guys, I see no longer. So what about getting a part-time job? That's an interesting question. So I was about to quit, but we got another question which sounds interesting. Do you think there is a part-time job would be helpful? Is there something like a part-time job? I didn't ever actually found a request for part-time jobs.
I looked around for that, and companies
don't really offer that.
Yeah.
And I can at some point understand why, because what is part-time? It's either 4 or 6 hours a day, but you see, you have a lot of things that when you work 8 hours a day, you don't actually like code 8 hours a day. So what do you actually get doing in 4 hours? You still a lot of reaching.
Yeah, exactly. Recommend it for entry level. No. Maybe for a senior developer, Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? But for an entry level part-time, you have to be there. I mean, in the battle to with the
Especially
teams
at the beginning, it's
to.
important to get as
Yes.
many hours in as possible.
As many hours
Yes,
possible.
no. I will not recommend part-time. I mean, as a
But own
entry-level.
projects, like for example, start your own application that does something.
Yes. Do on you, and also contribute to open source projects.
Someone said earlier,
Yeah.
actually in a comment, that open source is difficult and you can't do that as a junior developer. Do you agree with that?
No. You have tasks vary for entry level position, like putting a button, doing test.
So there are a lot
Yeah.
of things.
People
I
like
do
write
agree with that.
documentation.
Yeah,
I do
right,
agree with that.
documentation.
Open source doesn't mean necessarily. So look at now. The last project I've contributed to was the new authorization server from Spring Security. I didn't have so much time, so unfortunately, and my apologies to that. I only solved a few tasks in the whole that. So I'm not a great contributor, but the idea is that the project doesn't only have complex, even if it's Spring Security, and even if it's authorization server, which implies knowing a lot of things. So auth, you go into the documentation and stuff like that, but it's still writing unit tests. It's still writing the documentation. That's very helpful as well. So when you decide to contribute to an open source project, you might start with just writing some part of the documentation, or just test it, or just maybe create some small tutorials about it. Even that is helpful. So even if you don't commit into the code, you created an article, you wrote an article about that, it will at some point help many people.
Yes.
So and you start with that, and then you write a line of code, and then you write a couple of lines of code. So I also tend to contradict the comment there and say, if you start with an open source and you of course take the most difficult task from the list,
Yeah.
then of course it's difficult, but it's not necessarily that you have only difficult tasks.
Exactly.
Cool. With that, guys, first of all, so Israel, Diana, thank you very much again, and for sharing your experience with our viewers here. And I hope that everyone who was live, and not only, everyone who will see this recorded session on the YouTube channel will find it helpful, encouraging. And of course, please do ask your questions still. If you didn't have the chance to attend the event live, you can ask your questions in the comment section. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I promise to go back to Israel and Diana and ask them their opinion. Thank you very much, everyone, and have an excellent time for study further. Cheers, waving
Thank
goodbye.
you.